The hidden history of money and New World Order usury secrets revealed. In a nutshell, money is a technique to keep track of credits/debts. All money that is created and tracked in the ledgers of privately controlled central and commercial/retail banks is counterfeit, i.e. fiat money created from nothing, backed by nothing, owned by the private bankers, aka fiat money. Money has gone from being a physical asset medium of exchange to being a debt token to being a medium of expropriation of the nation's productivity by the bankers or legalized banksters, banking gangsters. This is explained with full detail in The Hidden History of Money. Franz Hormann, professor at the Economics University in Vienna, has explained the fraudulent workings of the fractional reserve banking system in an interview published in the mainstream Austrian newspaper, Der Standard, October 2010, with extraordinary clarity, indicating that information about the fraudulent banking system is now going mainstream. If one creates money out of thin air and then passes on what did not exist before, charging interest and using physical assets as collateral, then that is in reality a model for expropriation. He said, when banks create money that is not backed by any assets of their own, it is referred to as fiat money, a.k.a. legalized counterfeiting. The process of creating fiat money by private bankers implies expropriation of everyone's wealth and productivity by the private bankers who issue money against it. The national debt is in fact a record of how much bankers expropriated from the people. Actually, the entire world banking system is a fraud, as recently explained by Austrian professor of economics Franz Hormann, University in Vienna. The current crisis stems from the banks. The banks, private central and commercial banks, invent money as part of the credit creation process. But if you create money out of thin air, aka counterfeiting, and then pass it on to others while adding interest to something that did not exist before, and then also make physical assets the collateral, that is in reality a model for expropriation if the social model goes wrong. This is also the reason for bank secrecy rules. Banks are not in a position to reveal where the interest for savings books, property saving contracts and such like comes from, and so show that it is all a complex pyramid scheme or Ponzi game in reality. Please note, all money in circulation, whether in the form of paper notes or in computerized ledger accounts, is created by private central and commercial banks, from nothing of their own as collateral, and is issued as a usury-bearing debt to governments, corporations, and individuals. Bankers are not liable for the money they issue, i.e. the whole world cannot come to the bankers and demand assets from the bankers in return for the money that they created from nothing, as this money just keeps circulating from bank account to bank account ad infinitum. The unit of currency, e.g. US dollars, is an undefined measure. Up to 1913, a US dollars was defined as 1/20th of an ounce of gold. In order to pay the interest on the borrowed paper notes, governments, corporations, and individuals have to collect such notes, but as interest is paid, less and less money remains in circulation unless the bankers issue more, i.e. unless 1. Bankers spend all money collected in interest immediately to buy goods and services. 2. Or governments, corporations, and individuals borrow more from the bankers. 3. Or the bankers out of their goodwill create money and give it away. 4. Or the bankers out of their goodwill forgive debts and interest payments. 5. Or the bankers buy real assets, most likely at very low deflated prices with money which they create from nothing. In any case, not enough money remains in circulation to pay back the capital plus interest, i.e. the peoples are perpetually working for the bankers and are at the mercy of the bankers, aka banking gangsters, Bankensteins. President Woodrow Wilson, who was originally responsible for creating the Federal Reserve, later regretted that decision for obvious reasons, saying, "A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is privately concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated, the hidden governments in the civilized world, no longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and the duress of small groups of dominant men. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth. For my part, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. Patrick Henry, fear can only prevail when victims are ignorant of the facts. Thomas Jefferson. The U.S. dollar is a faith-based currency dependent on the credibility of a central bank. Dallas Federal Reserve Bank President Richard Fisher. No one man can terrorize a whole nation unless we are all his accomplices. Edward R. Murrow. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we are being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I am liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. John Lennon. Everyone has the right to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19. I have placed the above reminder for those self-anointed alleged guardians of human rights who like to ensure that only the ruling elite's voice is heard and everyone else's voice is drowned. We will expose the reality that the world is ruled and controlled by corrupt people also known as elite criminals, and the truth can be found in what is forbidden to say. Follow the money and make no mistake about it, we are all owned by the masters of the banking system who have always criminally ruled humans since ancient times. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. Otherwise, if serfs were made cognizant of their condition of servitude, they would be moved to do something about it, which would be problematic to their masters who want eternal power over them with the least trouble as possible, i.e., the ideal tyranny is that which is unknowingly self-administrated by its victims, and so the most perfect slaves are those who blissfully and unwittingly enslave themselves. Similarly, those who are hopelessly ignorant of the pernicious and precarious nature of the modern financial system are, by their blind obedience to it, slaves to the money masters who control it. We are the serfs/knaves of the modern banking feudal gangsters, shades of the Sheriff of Nottingham. Since very ancient times, the ruling elite have kept themselves above the laws and systems they have devised for the common folks, i.e., what is criminal for the average person is not for the world's ruling elite, i.e., the world is ruled by a criminals' cabal who have given themselves the divine right of kings and who have legislated loopholes for themselves to remain above the common law. The veteran FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover said, "The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it exists." You will understand why as you read how unimaginably monstrous the feudal bankers' conspiracy really is. Note that 6 or 7 U.S. presidents, William Henry Harrison, poisoned in 1841, Zachary Taylor, Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley and John F. Kennedy 1963, 7 if FDR's poisoning is counted, have been murdered over the issue of private banking dynasties having control over the creation of money, along with many others including Julius Caesar. Cherub Spiritovich concludes, according to Bismarck, the awful civil war in America was fomented by a Jewish, Zionist bankers' conspiracy, and President Abraham Lincoln, the hero and national saint of the United States, was killed by the same hidden hand which killed 6 Romanov czars, 10 kings, and scores of ministers only to easier bleed their nations. And now 6 more U.S. presidents after Lincoln. More on this later. Before, whoever had gold could buy out many things and people. The supply or creation of gold was limited, and thus whoever had mined or waged war to get or steal the gold had limited powers. Now, whoever controls the issue of the nations and the world's dollar credits can buy out everything and everyone. The supply of dollar credits is unlimited as dollar credits are created by the stroke of a pen or keyboard. Alex James. Here is a quick shocking summary of how the financial system is rigged. Money is a ledger entry created by bankers. It keeps circulating in the bankers' computer ledgers. All money created by the bankers is counterfeit, i.e., bankers simply create money from nothing of their own, a.k.a. fiat money, using everyone else as collateral, i.e., a model for expropriation. The amount of money that can be created is infinite. The bank owners such as the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, etc. have a monopoly on the legalized counterfeiting of money. They usuriously indebt you by usurping a piece of the economic production that will be created by everyone else. Money actually represents an anonymous debt since the actual debtor's name and the lender's or creditor's name is not written on paper or computer ledger dollars. The actual debtor is the banker and the actual lender/creditor is the taxpayer. All profits from the banks are privatized while all debts are socialized and transferred to the world's taxpayers. The usurious debt grows exponentially, eventually consuming the producers as the parasites grow. The record of the federal, state, city, corporate, private, etc. debts to the bankers is actually a partial record of the wealth stolen by the bankers from the world's peoples. To get an accurate figure of how much the bankers have stolen from the peoples, you would have to add the interest they charged and adjust for inflation. The total current debts to the bankers worldwide is about $90 trillion, so these bankers have stolen at least that much and are collecting interest on stolen money. Bankers definitely did not have $90 trillion of wealth to lend us, so they had to steal it from the people to lend it to us. Inability to repay a debt is not a crime. However, more people are being locked up for not being able to repay the credit issued by bankers who created it from nothing, i.e., by counterfeiting. In addition to the above, these other points will be discussed as you explore the hidden history of money and usury. Money or credit is needed by everyone to facilitate exchange of goods and services, as bartering is not always practical. In the past, paper money issued by a money changer used to represent a receipt for some commodity that exists, e.g. gold, silver, etc. Today's money is a debt token promised to pay which is created from nothing by the issuer at no liability to himself, using the people's productivity as collateral without their permission, a.k.a. counterfeiting. The promise to pay is a collective liability against the entire country, and this token is given value by the people who produce goods and services and not by its issuer or creator. An infinite amount of credit can be created by those banksters who have usurped the power to issue credit from the people. Thus they are the parasitic neo-feudal lords of the world and can buy out anything/anyone to tighten their power. This fiat money then acts like shares whose value gets diluted as new shares are issued. The ones who are the creators of money control the issue of money, control governments, corporations, individuals, i.e. they can create oversupplies and shortages of money, buy out assets, etc. Any new credit created causes a devaluation of the existing currency. Thus inflation takes away your current currency-based wealth and your earning power, as well as your power to pay interest on any existing debt and your power to buy future goods. All money in circulation represents a debt that is being paid with interest by someone, a government, a corporation, a person. The associated interest is not created into the system, thus assuring a shortfall unless more debt is assumed to create additional money with which to pay the interest, or the bankers create the money and spend it, i.e. they get something for nothing, i.e. we are perpetually working for the bankers. Private banking dynastic families have always had control over the issue of money since ancient times and have usurped our birthright to be free, transferred all liabilities to us as eternal debt and bailouts for their cronies. Private banking dynasties have used lies, propaganda, education, media control, religious cults, stooges, blackmail, threats, suicidal murders, assassinations, terrorism, wars and currency manipulations to maintain their hegemony over a world currency, control over the issue of money, and increase their wealth and power over governments and legislations. Criminal private banking dynasties/cabals are the rulers of the world and are the force behind governments, thrones, major corporations, tax-exempt foundations, secretive societies, and legislations. Currently, the privately owned Federal Reserve Bank's note, FRN's, US dollar is the world's currency as it is demanded by all exporting countries in exchange for goods/services they trade internationally. This allows the banking dynasties to use the United States as their muscle around the world to maintain their power and wage currency wars for their hegemony, while they can keep buying anything they want by merely issuing FRNs, giving nothing in return, and forcing the trade deficit into treasury bill paper at the point of their big guns. If there were no debt, there would be no money supply, i.e. we are eternally indebted to the banksters into an eternally growing production and debt until the system collapses, leading us into destitution and slavery at the mercy of the bank lords. As the banksters create more and more money, previously issued money as well as newly issued money becomes increasingly worth less. Please note that inflation is a hidden tax on money itself. Taxes go to enrich the bank lords to pay them their usury tribute. Democracy and freedom are actually a front for the bank lords' economic dictatorship. This money system loved by the bank lords is dependent on perpetually accelerating growth and therefore is not sustainable. Thus, this system must be replaced with a freedom-based non-profit sustainable social credit system eventually, or with total slavery. Taxes are not levied for the benefit of the taxed. There is no worse tyranny than to force a man to pay for what he does not want merely because you think it would be good for him. Robert A. Heinlein. I think the terror most people are concerned with is the IRS. Malcolm Forbes, when asked if he was afraid of terrorism in general, the art of government consists in taking as much money as possible from one party of citizens, the middle class, to give to the other, the financial elite, i.e. indebt/tax the people and then bail out anyone. Voltaire, 1764. Our forefathers made one mistake. What they should have fought for was representation without taxation. Fletcher Nebel, historian. Ill fares the land, to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. Oliver Goldsmith. First, there is money. Then someone gets the idea, why not turn the money itself into a commodity? From its normal use as a medium of exchange, the very money becomes something to be trafficked in and profitable in itself. It's a bit like the football ticket scalpers. Aristotle. On politics, money, being naturally barren, to make it breed money is preposterous and a perversion from the end of its institution, which was only to serve the purpose of exchange and not of increase. Men called bankers we shall hate, for they enrich themselves while doing nothing. Usury is most reasonably detested as the increase arises from the money itself, and not by employing it to the purpose for which it was intended. In Rome, 48 BC, the issuing of money was done privately by a few wealthy Jewish families. Julius Caesar took this privilege from them and restored it to the government to whom it belonged. For this, Julius Caesar was assassinated. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Deuteronomy 20 verse 19. Note, we are all brothers. I am afraid that the ordinary citizen will not like to be told that banks can and do create money, and they who control the credit of the nation, and its citizens and corporations, direct the policy of governments and hold in the hollow of their hands the destiny of the people. Reginald McKenna, a past chairman of the board, Midlands Bank of England. Thus our national circulating medium, collectivized debt liability, is now at the mercy of loan transactions of banks, which lend not money, but false promises to supply money which they do not possess. Irving Fisher, economist and author. One thing to realize about our fractional reserve banking system is that, like a child's game of musical chairs *i.e. a pyramid Ponzi scheme, as long as the music is playing, there are no losers. Andrew Gause, monetary historian. The hidden history of money is the tip of the iceberg of truth, with many angles of viewing in an attempt to follow the money down to Cabono. Who benefits? These masters of the modern world are the men of unique wealth and influence who control, by a complete and complex matrix of evil, the banking and financial systems of the world, and by that the economic and political spheres in human affairs. These men of fabulously unique wealth and influence are not known to the masses, since they conduct their affairs in great secrecy in dark unions and secret meetings far away from public scrutiny. Yet their influence in human affairs is massive, as we will conclude from the material presented later. The information presented herein will also increase understanding of some of these verses Bible and the Quran. James Madison, 4th President of the United States. Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power that knowledge gives. A popular government without truthful, popular information or the means of acquiring it, thank God for the internet, is but a prologue to a farce. Bush and the neocons, or tragedy, financial slavery of the masses, Iraq, Afghanistan, or perhaps both. Mahatma Gandhi, just look at us. Everything is backwards, everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom, the major media destroy information, and institutionalized evangelicals, religions destroy spirituality, etc. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Martin Luther King. You don't have to burn books to destroy a culture, just get people to stop reading them. Ray Bradbury. Please like, subscribe and hit that bell button for more videos. Thank you.